In the 4th grade, I was reprimanded for asking a stupid question. The question at hand: how does a worm make babies if they're just strings of throbbing slime? My teacher at the time quickly interjected, insisting that such an inquiry is highly derogatory. But obviously in the 4th grade, I didn't understand what the word derogatory meant, so I continued with my question-asking ventures. But to no avail. It seemed as though the answers to select questions were meant to be crossed with yellow tape, a contemporary label of stop, because we don't have to talk about it. This has mounted the largest wave of superior-oriented censorship, also known as social dominance orientation. This theory postulates that societies try to minimize group conflict by creating consensus on ideologies that promote the superiority of certain groups over others, the idea of normality. And those who try to question these traditions face bogged down remarks. We have chosen to learn what we want to learn and limited examination, because apparently to question is to fear. So we'd rather be in a state of complacency than adhere to another's side. And this is my concern. In order to understand this concept, let us first examine the cradle of all superiority, then discuss how it has evolved into censorship implications in our lives, and finally, identify how to reverse the adverse effects of it. But as customary, trigger warning, because some statements may offend you, only if you are bound to the constraints of normality. In Doja Cat's one-hit single, Boss Bitch, she sings, I'm a bitch, I'm a boss, I'm a bitch and a boss, and I'm going to shine like gloss, aka my daily affirmations. I mean, no truer words have been spoken in literary history, and to follow on suit with modern lingo, Shakespeare is legit quaking. Doja Cat has tapped into the human mind repository and extracted a universal truth. We love to prop ourselves up in order to fight back when necessary. But when is defending ourselves crossing the line between self-preservation and outright bigotry? Well, in 2011, Robin DiAngelo famously coined the term fragility when she observed the disbelieving defensiveness that white people exhibit when their ideas about race and racism are challenged. Why, she wondered, did her feedback prompt such resistance, in which she boiled down the answer to insulation. It became apparent that censorship has prompted an escapade of closed-mindedness that warrants people to preserve ideas with ethical and social dilemmas constrained to them, and when confronted, they become fragile. This fragility is then dubbed with ostensible oversensitivity. And, as Dr. Arthur Dorban of the American Psychiatric Association mentions, being oversensitive is double-edged, as it can lead to an egotistical direction. In this case, a person will try to reduce unpleasant feelings by attacking the source of distress. Take James Fields, when in 2017 he deliberately drove his car into a Black Lives Matter protest in Virginia, because he felt their gesture was an attack against his European pride. Unfortunately, his rhetoric is not unique, and is the basis of similar encounters. This paints a dangerous narrative, as superiority tethered with fragility sets with the advent of misplaced censorship. Now, if you're a cool kid like me, you probably have the sensational video sharing app TikTok, a platform to post funny and eye-opening skits alongside cute dance videos. Let me demonstrate. Renegade, renegade, yeah! And it's okay, no need to mention, I definitely see my dance career launching off too. But one night, as I was scrolling through TikTok at 1 a.m. as any sane person does, I stumbled upon a video of a white individual stereotyping South Asians, such as myself, as smelly gas station workers. So I commented, stating that his imposition is unwarranted and rude, to which he quickly replied back, "Stop being a snowflake, you monkey." I was puzzled at first, because A, it meant that my profile picture makes me look like a chimpanzee, and B, I don't look very much like a snowflake. But, with the help of the Collins English Dictionary, it was illuminated that a snowflake is one who shuts down free speech when it comes in conflict with their own opinions. By this definition, religious fanatics, hyper-ideological groups, those who call others snowflakes, are all snowflakes themselves. But this has birthed a paradoxical culture in which people find leeway to impose hurtful comment simply due to free speech, But the problem revealed, as documented by Jared Yates Sexton in his passage The Crisis of Our Own Making, he explains these staunch assertions are directly related to vernacular regions, which stop the permeation of various schools of thought, thus shaping their mind to be conventionally conservative, and deplete them of empathy about the layeredness of problems that don't directly affect them. For example, take into account the barring of Gillette's infamous "The Best Men Can Be," a Me Too-inspired ad campaign undercutting toxic masculinity from certain television channels, because some believe the ad contorted the idea of what it means to be a man, implying the consent that to be masculine means to engage in roughhousing, and to objectify women as sex objects is merely locker room banter. But when a man exhibits emotion and sympathy, he's labeled as a pussy. Or the erasure of LGBTQ plus history here in the state of Texas, alongside South Carolina, Alabama, Louisiana, and Oklahoma, because of no pro-homo laws, which seek the heteronormativity into legal stature, stripping away queer identity. To even the slashing of literary works that contain racial slurs and hard-to-digest imagery about the atrocities people of color and minorities have faced in this country, in Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Mississippi school districts, because it may offend white children. This problem also extends over to international affairs, where Uyghur Muslims, Palestinians, Christian Yazidis, newer ethnic groups, alongside others, face daily persecutions and killings, but we don't have to talk about it, because hate and violence is a normal part of our lives. We have become exclusionary to certain matters, which has resulted in the silencing of stories and experiences of humanity, making the idea of normal concrete. Now, the time I have been here, I have already mentioned the words bitch, sex, and pussy, discussed a political term disparage, alluded to deprecatory slurs and genocide, did a TikTok dance, and may have offended a few Italians with overused hand gestures. All conversations that should rightfully make you shudder. I want to preface by saying, it is good to be uncomfortable with these subjects, because it means your sympathetic nervous system is working. But in hindsight, we cannot allow these feelings to overcome the facts. So, how do we tackle political power and encourage change about social dominance through the reach we have? Well, I'm doing it right now. We engage in dialogue. I know, shocker, right? But I say this with greater tenacity. The conversations that do occur now are laden with ad hominems, yelling, and outrage when opinions are stated, denoting them as catfights instead of civil discourse. We walk into conversations with the desire to win instead of the intention to listen, because we believe the other person's viewpoints hold no value. And this is the problem. Every thought that is evoked from one's mind comes from the state of societal confirmations, experiences, and outlooks. Thus, every idea is significant. Now, it's just a matter of whether or not we want to listen and grow from them. I think we as a society are not becoming more sensitive. Instead, we are becoming resilient. Resilient enough to usurp information when it's a burden or isn't our normalcy, a trigger per se. Thus, we mount warnings to protect us against these stipulations. So why do I speak on this here specifically, with a selective audience? Well, when I joined the speech and debate community 4 years ago, it was an attempt to get a bipartisan look at the world because of the selectivity of our education system and politics. And now, as my speech career comes to an end, even if virtually, I'm seeing how this community is the step towards exterminating the normalcy of ideas. Because in retrospect, normal is man-made. Therefore, it can be altered. But before we do so, we need to eliminate the superior complexity that rests in our community. We spend countless hours research, writing, and speaking on issues that no high schoolers dare, only for some to lose the passion when it plays out in reality. It is time we change that. We should hold ourselves responsible to elicit conversations in our communities. because we believe this opportunity and our words host the greatest potential for change. I hope this is why we continue to put so much effort into this activity. It is difficult to break down the strings of censorship as lone individuals against large power holders, but it is a stark reminder of the power of our voices and the stories behind them. It is why I stand here today, because I know this sport isn't just about speaking to win. It's about speaking to engage in difficult dialogue, inside and outside of tournaments. Progress in any form never comes through silence. It always starts with a little spark of imagination and an open mind. For us, well, we are the future. Let's use our flames of imagination to ignite change.